I had a pretty difficult childhood, but I'm grateful for it now because it helped me to become who I am, a sensitive person with empathy for other people who suffered trauma.
Gita Chaudhuri is head of psychotherapy at The Balance in Mallorca. She champions a holistic approach to support long-lasting well-being.
Sitting in the sun and listening to the birds sounds so stupid, but it's not at all. Only in those moments, the nervous system can calm down, and only then we can really rest and recover.
In this episode, she shares why high performers struggle to rest and the secret to prevent burnout in her own life.
I think they will realize sooner or later. That's the thing about the burnout. You literally burn out. You feel like unplugged suddenly and there's no energy left. Learning to recognize the triggers, like learning how to notice when it's enough.
Gita, good to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
When I look into the map, it said the Balance Rehab Center. What it means to be rehabbed?
So rehab stands for rehabilitation, recovery we could also say. We could also say retreat, but of course it's not like just a wellness retreat. It's more about serious issues, like people who suffer serious mental health issues like addiction, burnout, depression, trauma. We are a treatment center, I would actually say.
As someone who have seen a lot of transformative patients and experiences, what do you see the approach from Balance are different from the people who just do the traditional talking therapies or changing their behavior?
So at the Balance we offer a very broad variety of therapies, not just psychotherapy like talking therapy, but then also we offer psychiatric treatments, body therapies, yoga, so it's a mix, it's a combination, a holistic approach where we combine different methods coming from all angles because we see our patients also as holistic people, So if you have one issue, like for example addiction, you cannot just treat the symptom, the behavioral part of it, or you cannot just treat the physical part of it, or you cannot just treat the psychological part. So we combine all levels and layers that contribute to some problems, and this is actually the integrative approach.
I'm actually quite excited and curious about today's experience for Balance Rehab Clinic. Could you walk us through, what is the first step when I'm coming in as a client? Before
you even come in, there are several phone calls that our client relations team are doing with the patients in order to inform them how we work and in order to also see what kind of requests or what kind of intentions they are bringing, And when they come in, at first, after greeting them and so on, we do some general assessments so that we can tailor the treatment plan and the schedule accordingly.
What is a general assessment?
So my colleague, Dr. Sarah, she will do the psychiatric and medical assessment, and myself, I do the psychological assessment, as in what is the background, what kind of issues do they want to address, what kind of resources do they already have, what is problematic, what do we have to take care of, and also a little bit the family background.
Why the family background is in the picture as well?
Because individuals are always developing certain problems in a social context, and it's very often either the family they are living in, like the actual family, like wife or partner and children, but also the original family where they are coming from. This is like a context for them to develop certain problems or issues, So it's really important, and we always like to include those family members at a later point of the treatment, because our clients will also go back to those contexts.
Yeah, that's actually my next question. You read my mind. Because we see many people, they might have some insight from different events or experiences, but when we go back to our real life with the people we always see, it triggers us to go back. So do you think to have a week, 2 or a month here can help people to have that more secured base to go back to their old lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are working on this, of course. We are in the last phase of the treatment. We focus on the transfer to their life back home. In order to do this, sometimes we include family members, or also we prepare them from how to apply what they learned in this little balance bubble, right? Okay. Of course, that's really important.
Could you tell us what it looks like in day-to-day?
We build an individualized schedule for them with the treatment plans, which includes all kind of body therapies. It's really important. It's not just a wellness thing, for example, a massage. It's also helping to reconnect them with themselves, with their body. We underestimate very often the physical side and mental health, but we feel and we have emotions only through our body, and also bad experiences are being stored in the body, so we need the body to include in all kind of mental health therapies, I think. So it's about massages or moving the body like yoga, or sometimes even a little bit more like qigong, those martial art things, in order to feel empowered and also to find physical balance, which also affects the psychological and emotional balance, these kind of things. Then sometimes we work out a meal plan, they work with a nutritionist, that can make a lot of sense. Then of course we plan for the sessions like psychotherapy, seeing a psychiatrist, doing somatic experiencing work. This is more like a work that focuses on trauma relief, and also activating resources and rebuilding the strength and the power of the clients.
When you talk about the physical part of how that influences our mental part, can you give us some details on that?
For example, if you experience something very bad, or even if you just watch a horror movie and it's just a movie, you don't even really experience it for real, but you react physically, right? Your heart beats faster, and maybe you start to sweat and you get tense, oh my God, something like this, right? This is a physical reaction. And so if you are in fear, if you're tense, if you're under stress, the nervous system produces a lot of hormones and transmitters that prepare you to either fight or flee, actually. So this creates this tension. And people who are exposed to this kind of stressors for a long period of time, or very often, they keep this tension in the body. So the body is basically constantly prepared to defend the person, and this can cause a lot of pain in the body, heart problems, all kind of physical problems.
But the thing is, if somebody already programmed themselves to be in that fight or flight energy or behavior all the time, let's say if we change the behavior for them in that month time, how can you make sure they don't go back to the same habits?
Right, because we work on self-awareness and self-regulation.
Okay.
Yeah? So we don't do it for them. We guide them through how to do it themselves, how to be aware of what is going on inside of me. Oh, I feel now I'm tense, because sometimes you don't even notice that. So it's about creating this awareness, and then from there also to navigate those feelings or those stress response states, so they can learn how to regulate themselves down, for example, through breath work or through yoga positions or grounding techniques and so on.
I actually want to dive into the details. Let's say burnout, right? In modern lifestyle, and especially people are in important roles, or they need to provide for their families, or they have responsibilities. I think many times people do love what they do, but still on the end of the day, they'll feel like I have no time for myself. Then they could end up on scrolling the phones, have different addiction of different things. So what is burnout, and will people who are burnout even know it?
I think they will realize sooner or later. That's the thing about the burnout. You literally burn out, as in you feel like unplugged suddenly, and there's no energy left, and sometimes you're like kind of totally shut down. They feel like they can't get out of bed, But then it's of course a very, very late stage of the process.
What are the early warning signs?
Yes, so the earlier warning signs is like lack of self-care, as you mentioned, like not taking care of yourself, not noticing your limits, the boundaries, right? Like performing, and not having any kind of balance in life, like also resting, enjoying things, not just functioning. So burnout is actually a state that is a result of when people are very performance oriented.
How do we actually change that? Because maybe fundamentally we believe there's something make us great or make us have the drive. So what are the fine balance to change that mindset fundamentally?
I think the opposite of being in this functioning mode is to be very present and to just be and not doing. You know, in the end we're human beings, not human doings, you know. But you're right, some people just don't know anymore how to rest and how to just be there, how to just kind of be present in the here and now without aiming for something, you know, without trying to achieve anything. That is the opposite of functioning and performing. It's just be in the moment. And this is what we work on with the clients. We help them learning that through all the sessions we provide them.
Let's say if I have a burnout tendency, not there yet, but I know many times I feel upset and I have addiction for, let's say, food, my phone.
As a compensation then.
What are the threads for me to, you know, uncovering those patterns and then change it?
Recognizing the patterns would be one of the first things, and also validating and understanding where it comes from. That many times it has to do with some beliefs that you develop, like only if I perform I'm a lovable person, or without this approval or without this success I'm nobody, or something like this, you know. So we also explore those underlying beliefs, learning to recognize the triggers or the first indicators, like learning how to notice when it's enough. I myself, I work a lot. And also I have a lot of responsibility. And also I'm a high functional person, I would say. At the same time, I love to be just and do nothing, you know, and sit in the sun and just, you know, refill the batteries actually. Or I enjoy being with my kids or with my horse or some things like that, you know. And that balances me out. And without this other side of mine, I would kind of slowly but surely burn out. And my first indicators would maybe be I get tired, I lose motivation, I have to really push myself to go to work, you know, but I'm feeling bored maybe in the end. Or
feeling bored, it could be an indicator.
Feeling bored or feeling overwhelmed or feeling stressed, then maybe I start to, you know, compensate with drinking too much or eating too much and so on, you know. And then I have maybe moments, phases or days where I just rest, but I don't know how to rest, or I just stay in bed and watch some movies. I distract myself, you know, from myself actually.
But when those things happened, let's say if the people who couldn't be here, what will be the first action they can do to do something towards making that better?
So instead of these short-term kind of reliefs through being entertained, like watching a series or drinking or whatever, learning how to be with yourself, how to really enjoy things, you know, going for a mindful walk or sitting in the sun and watching or listening to the birds or things like that. And it sounds so stupid, but it's not at all, because only in those moments the nervous system can calm down and all the things can be processed that we experience throughout the day, and only then we can really rest and recover.
So the key is do the actions to calm down your nervous system.
Yes,
basically.
Actually to allow the nervous system to calm down. Actually it's not so much an active thing.
Here you go.
Yes, I have to calm down. That's actually counterproductive. Yeah? But like when you're sleeping, you're not doing anything. You allow the whole system to recover and to rest, right? It's happening for you.
Well, what I eat influence how I feel overall.
Well, eating is a very complex thing, you know. So if I eat mindfully and healthily, that is of course different than just eating in between some French fries or whatever, you know. But eating can also be something very calming, and some people just eat a lot of sugar or just eat so that they, in order to numb a little bit their feelings, right? This is also possible. So of course the things I eat and the way I eat influence my feelings. Do I eat out of self-care and to nourish myself and to really be good to myself, or do I just eat because I have to and I just put something in and then I move on? You know, that makes already a big difference. And then also, what do I eat? Is it healthy? Is it full of vitamins? Is it making me strong? Or is it just calories, empty calories?
That's very interesting because sometimes I'm kind of using food as a way to get rid of those kind of boredom feeling, to change my state, and it would be interesting to change that behavior.
Yes, and it's interesting that you say this because I think really many people have this nowadays, and also it's really difficult nowadays because we have this overload of things that we can buy everywhere, that we can eat. It's so easy, right? This short-term reward, and it helps us. And then we don't have to really check in with ourselves and explore what we really need. It is some kind of compensation. And that is something that we would also work on. Finding out maybe a good routine and structure for you so that you have structured meal times that help you to not snack in between out of boredom. But also addressing the boredom. What is this boredom about? And what is beyond that boredom? Are there maybe, is this an emptiness, or are these overwhelming feelings, or is it just you're not used to not doing something, So I'd be very interested in this boredom.
Yeah. What are the types of clients who work in balance?
Many of them are really high performers. Successful people, wealthy people, that focus more on, as I said, performing, very often coming from a background of where it's about achieving things and being perfect. People who tend to exploit themselves, right? Who don't know how to really take good care of themselves.
And normally how long they stay here?
We always recommend a minimum of 4 weeks. And some stay even 6 weeks, 8 weeks, it depends.
And what are the results? Are they getting what they wished for before they came here?
In most cases, I would say really yes. I mean, most of our clients really give very, very positive feedback, and most of them are really grateful for all the work we do, and they have new insights, and they know how to be with themselves, and they have so many different ideas about what they can change in their lives. And many of them want to keep up with things that they started just here, like yoga or meditation, where they said in the beginning, that's not for me, and then they realized that this can be very beneficial and can be even fun for them.
Is there any transformative kind of stories you could share with us?
I'm speaking to a client still in aftercare, so I'm still working with her from time to time. She came here in a very exhausted state. The weeks and months prior to her stay at the Balance were like she couldn't get out of bed anymore, and she was really hiding from the world. She was really anxious, and she kind of blossomed at the Balance, and she became herself again, and she discovered really new sides of her, and she became very strong and energetic and lifeful. She really brings all these new things and insights, this new version of her to her world. She's now currently working on her relationship, which is of course sometimes for partners it's challenging when people come back and with so many changes. And then of course, this is why we do this aftercare also, to help doing the transitioning.
Is there a specific approach of psychotherapists that you are doing here in Balance?
Yeah, well, our approach is integrative, so we use different approaches from different schools. I'm personally also trained in different approaches, so I can work first on the behavior, I can see the cognitive part of it, what kind of beliefs people have developed, but I can also look a little bit on the depth psychology, that like where it's coming from, the family. I can look at the systemic side, the systemic aspects, that is the context, the social context of people, We all have relationships, and our relationships shape our way to be and our way to behave in the world, right? So the first attachments, like to our parents, are really so important, so we focus on that. And I always say talking is not enough. In therapy, even in so-called talking therapy, we need to experience something. So we work a lot on with the relationship between therapist and client, so that they feel safe and connected and validated and good and being seen and understood.
Can our relationship with our parents really change? Let's say if someone's parents are really not in the mood of changing with you, or they're passing away. Right. Like in the situation like that, what can people do to heal that trauma?
That's a good question. No, of course we cannot turn back time, right? And sometimes we cannot change others, but we can change how we deal with others, And we can always change the narratives also.
Like our perception towards it.
Exactly, and how we see ourselves within those stories, right? Do we experience ourselves as helpless, as a victim, or do we feel empowered? For example, I had a pretty difficult childhood, but I'm grateful for it now because it helped me to become who I am, a sensitive person with empathy for other people who suffered trauma, you know? And so it made me very resilient. So that is a change of narrative. Instead of saying, oh my God, it was all so difficult and that's not fair, I say, well, yeah, but I learned so much and it made me understand so many things and it made me grow.
I love that. If there has anything our audience could implement into their daily life without being here, is there any pillars of this holistic approach to their health?
I would always really say take some time to be mindful, like just check in with yourself, ask yourself, how do I feel? What do I need? Am I hungry? Am I tired? Or do I need to rest? Or do I have enough people I can share my feelings with? Really checking in and getting in touch with yourself. There are many ways. You can do this with meditation, but you can also do it with just like some journaling or just talking to yourself in the mirror. And mind your self-talk. How do you talk with yourself? Do you push yourself? Do you tell yourself do more or you're not good enough? Or are you kind with yourself and gentle? So I think that is something that we can all practice. And building a good connection to ourselves, also to our body, right? Moving our body, using our body, being grateful for what we have, right? Instead of exploiting it.
And one last question. Actually curious, am I allowed to think, before I came, I have a list of behavior or habit I want to change, and I gave it to the team, and when I walk out of the treatment, will I be able to adapting into my new role to changing those behavior if I really working on it?
Yeah, I think so. Of course, it's not about just the behavior. There are reasons why you behave in a certain way. So we are not just working on new behavior, we are working on the underlying issues that brought you to this behavior. So you will automatically change your behavior when you come back from the balance, I think.
I think my one thing to come here is to deal with this slightly pre-indicator for feeling of burnout, and also to fix my relationship with food and sleep.
Yeah, I'd say maybe you can be really more mindful and gentle with yourself and observe yourself. What are you doing? How is your lifestyle? Is it really healthy? And instead of blaming yourself for not being able to eat healthily or so, just maybe be compassionate with yourself and try to understand what are you trying to compensate with that and what is it that you really need. And do you really need to work so much, or can you also work with a different mindset, I would say? I don't think it's about the quantity of work hours so much. It's also about, do we do what we do with joy?
Thank you, Gita, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the HumanWare Project. To help us to getting more amazing content out there, please subscribe. It means a lot and it will help us to grow. And let's go on this journey together.